I never thought my wife would make me feel like a fool. But there I was, standing in our bedroom, staring at her phone screen, my heart pounding so hard it felt like my ribs would crack. The videos played on loop. Maggie, my wife, in a hotel room, moaning, begging, not for me. The man's voice was deep, familiar. He laughed, called her dirty names, and she loved it. Her wedding ring flashed as she grabbed at him, her body moving in ways I hadn't seen in years. My hands shook. My breath came out ragged. The air felt thick, suffocating. I wanted to look away, couldn't. Message notifications kept popping up at the top of the screen. Miss you already, baby. Can't wait to ruin you again. I swiped through the chat. It wasn't just this guy. There were others. 3 different men. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. The house was dead silent except for the faint sound of running water. Maggie was in the shower, completely unaware that her entire world was about to explode. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was war. I never thought my wife would make me feel like a fool. But there I was, standing in our bedroom, staring at her phone screen, my heart pounding so hard it felt like my ribs would crack. The videos played on loop. Maggie, my wife, in a hotel room, moaning, begging, not for me. The man's voice was deep, familiar. He laughed, called her dirty names, and she loved it. Her wedding ring flashed as she grabbed at him, her body moving in ways I hadn't seen in years. My hands shook. My breath came out ragged. The air felt thick, suffocating. I wanted to look away. I couldn't. Message notifications kept popping up at the top of the screen. Miss you already, baby. Can't wait to ruin you again. I swiped through the chat. It wasn't just this guy. There were others. 3 different men. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. The house was dead silent except for the faint sound of running water. Maggie was in the shower, completely unaware that her entire world was about to explode. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was war. I stood frozen, Maggie's phone in my hand, my pulse hammering in my ears. The videos played in my mind like a cursed loop, images burned into my brain that I'd never unsee. My wife, the woman I built my life with, sprawled out in some hotel bed, giving herself to men like she had nothing to lose. The water shut off. My stomach clenched. She had no idea. No clue that in the next few minutes her world was about to shatter. I heard her hum softly like she was just another loving wife, rinsing off a long day. But she wasn't. She was a liar. A cheater. And if those test results were right, she was something even worse. The door creaked open, steam rolling into the hallway. Maggie stepped out, towel wrapped around her, shaking water from her hair. She caught my stare, then frowned. What, she asked, raising an eyebrow. You look like you've seen a ghost. I held up her phone. She blinked, and for a split second, just a fraction of a moment, her face changed. Fear. Then she covered it. She rolled her eyes, walking past me like I was nothing more than an annoying fly buzzing too close. Jesus, Adam. Are we snooping through my phone now? She muttered, heading toward the closet. I followed. Tell me I'm wrong. She didn't stop. Didn't turn around. She just kept walking, flipping through her clothes like she hadn't just shattered every part of my life. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, voice lazy, bored. I grabbed her wrist. Not hard. Just enough to make her look at me. Maggie. My voice was steady, colder than I expected. You've been sleeping with other men. She pulled away, letting out a sharp laugh. Oh my God, you sound insane. I unlocked her phone and played the first video. Her body stiffened. The sound of her own moans filled the air between us. For the first time, she had nothing to say. The web of lies. I expected tears. I expected begging. What I got instead was a slow exhale, a roll of her shoulders as she sat down on the bed, crossing her legs like we were discussing the weather. So what? She muttered. My stomach flipped. So what? That's all you have to say? I hissed, gripping the phone. This is our marriage. Our life. You swore, eh? Yeah, and? You think I'm the only woman who steps out? Please. She smirked like this was all some joke. You act like you've been perfect. I took a step forward. I never cheated on you. She scoffed. Maybe not. But let's not pretend you're some saint. You haven't touched me in months. The sheer audacity of her words nearly sent me over the edge. Because I was working. Paying for this house, paying for you, making sure we had everything. Oh, spare me. She rolled her eyes, flopping back onto the mattress. You think throwing money around makes you a good husband? Maybe if you'd actually been around, I wouldn't have needed to find someone else to keep me company. I clenched my fists so tight my nails bit into my palms. She wasn't sorry. Not even a little. She didn't regret it. She just regretted getting caught. I grabbed the Ziploc bag from my pocket, the one with her tainted blouse, the one I had tested. I tossed it onto the bed next to her. "What's that?" she asked, eyeing it lazily. "Evidence." My voice was deadly calm. "You didn't just cheat, Maggie. You brought home a disease. You gave me trichomoniasis." The smirk finally fell from her lips. She sat up slowly, her eyes darting to the bag. "What?" "You heard me." I stepped closer, towering over her. "I got tested. I have it. And I only have it because of you." She swallowed, but still tried to save herself. "That doesn't mean it was me." "Really?" I let out a bitter laugh. "You expect me to believe that? I haven't been with anyone else. You have. So unless some magical STD fairy visited me in my sleep, I think we both know where I got it." She paled. For the first time, the reality of the situation was setting in. I could see the calculations running through her head, how to twist this, how to make me the villain, how to slither her way out of the mess she made. "Maggie," I said, voice low. "Tell me the truth. How long has this been going on?" She hesitated. Then finally she sighed, rubbing her temples like I was the one giving her a headache. "Fine," she muttered. "A few months." I clenched my jaw. "How many?" She hesitated again. "I don't know." "Does it matter?" Rage exploded in my chest. "Does it matter?" I snatched her phone again, scrolling through messages, dates, names. James, Kevin, Todd. 3 different men. 3 different hotel rooms. Hundreds of messages, each one filthier than the last. I read one out loud. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to taste you again." I looked up, disgust curling in my gut. "Did you even think about me? About us? Or was I just some idiot paying your bills while you spread your legs for her?" She slapped me. Hard. My head snapped to the side, cheek burning. I turned back slowly, and for the first time I saw her for what she really was. A liar. A manipulator. A woman who had spent months disrespecting me, shoving her betrayal in my face, and now that the truth was out, she still had the nerve to act like I was the problem. I smiled. Not because I was happy. Because I finally saw her clearly. And I knew exactly what I had to do next. The sting of her slap still burned, but I barely felt it. I stood there, staring at her, this woman I thought I knew, while she had the audacity to look offended. Like I had crossed the line. Like I had ruined her night. "You're disgusting," she spat, crossing her arms. I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. "I'm disgusting?" She scoffed. "You're going through my phone like a damn psycho. Snooping through my clothes like some insecure little." I lunged forward, slamming her phone against the wall. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, the sound sharp and final. Maggie jumped, eyes widening, for the first time looking scared. "Good. You don't get to play the victim," I said, voice low, controlled. "Not after what you did." She swallowed hard, but the mask was slipping. I could see it in the way her fingers twitched, in the way her throat bobbed. But Maggie, oh, she was stubborn. She lifted her chin, crossed her legs, and let out a slow breath like she was bored. "So what now?" she asked. "You gonna cry? Beg me to stay?" My lip curled. "Stay? You think I'd let you stay in my house another damn second?" Her smirk twitched, barely holding. "You can't kick me out. This is our house." "No," I said, stepping closer. "It's mine. My name's on the deed. My money paid for it. You? You just played house while sneaking off to your little motel meetups." She rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic." "Dramatic?" I laughed bitterly. "You cheated. You lied. You infected me with some trashy disease, and you think I'm the one being dramatic." Her eyes flickered just for a second. "Guilt? No. Regret? No. Annoyance. Because I wasn't letting this go." I leaned down, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "You can pack a bag, or I can throw your crap on the front lawn. Your choice." Her nostrils flared, but she forced a smirk. "You wouldn't." I turned, grabbed the nearest drawer, and yanked it open. I didn't even care what was inside. I just grabbed fistfuls of her clothes, marched toward the bedroom window, and dumped them out. Maggie shot up from the bed. "What the hell?" I didn't stop. I grabbed more, dresses, shoes, underwear, flinging them onto the grass below. The wind caught one of her silk blouses, sending it floating like some pathetic white flag. Maggie shoved me hard. "Stop it, Adam." I grabbed her wrist before she could hit me again. "Pack your bag." We locked eyes, and for a moment neither of us moved. Then she yanked her arm away, breathing hard. "You'll regret this," she hissed. I smiled. "No, Maggie. You will." She stormed toward the closet, grabbed a suitcase, and started throwing things in. She wasn't careful. She wasn't crying. She was furious. Good. Let her be. I walked out of the room, my heart pounding, my hands still shaking with rage. I needed air. I needed to clear my head before I did something I couldn't take back. I stepped outside, the cool night air hitting me like a slap. Maggie's clothes were scattered across the lawn, expensive dresses, designer heels, all the little luxuries she had enjoyed while making a fool out of me. The garage door opened and Maggie appeared, dragging her suitcase behind her. She didn't even look at me. She stomped toward her car, popped the trunk, and threw her bag inside. I watched her. She slammed the trunk shut, gripping the edge like she was trying to ground herself. Then she turned, arms crossed, eyes cold. "Congratulations," she said, voice dripping with venom. "You just threw away your marriage over a mistake." I barked out a laugh. "A mistake?" She rolled her eyes. "Fine. A few mistakes. But guess what? I don't even care. You were never enough for me anyway." I felt it, something inside me snapping. I took a slow step forward. "Say that again." She smirked, tilting her head. "You heard me. You were boring, predictable. It was just so easy to lie to you. You never even noticed." My hands clenched into fists. She leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper. "And you want to know the best part? I don't even feel bad." I exhaled through my nose, forcing myself to stay calm. She was baiting me, trying to get a reaction. I refused to give her one. Instead, I smiled. A slow, knowing smile that made her own falter. She wanted to hurt me? Fine. But two could play this game. I stepped back, arms crossed. "You're gonna beg me to take you back?" She laughed. "Not in a million years." I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. "Let's see how funny you think this is when your family sees those videos." Her face dropped. All the arrogance, all the smirking, all the smug little jabs gone in an instant. She took a slow step forward. "Adam, what are you talking about?" I held up the screen, the messages, the videos, all the filth she had sent and received. "These? They're backed up. And guess what? Your dad is getting a little email in the next 5 minutes." Panic. Real, actual fear flickered in her eyes. "Don't," she whispered. I tilted my head. "Why not? You're not ashamed, right? You don't feel bad? So what's the problem?" Her breathing was shallow now, her fingers twitching at her sides. "Adam, please?" I smirked. "Oh, now you're begging?" Her jaw clenched. She knew she had lost. I turned my phone around and tapped the screen dramatically. "Send." She sucked in a sharp breath as darting to the screen. I didn't actually send it. But she didn't know that. And by the way her lips trembled, the way her hands clenched into tight fists, I knew, deep down, this was the first time she had ever truly felt powerless. I leaned in close, my voice a whisper in her ear. "Get the hell out of my life, Maggie." She swallowed hard, then turned without another word, slipping into her car. The engine roared to life, tires screeching as she sped off into the night. I stood there, breathing hard, watching the red taillights disappear down the street. And for the first time in months, I felt free. Her car taillights faded into the darkness, but the rage inside me didn't. My chest rose and fell, heart still hammering. The driveway felt too empty now, too silent, like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for what came next. I turned back toward the house, my fists still clenched. The wreckage of her clothes littered the lawn, lacy underwear, cocktail dresses, the heels she wore to impress him. I kicked one of them. It tumbled across the grass, useless, just like the woman who used to wear it. Then my phone buzzed. I pulled it out, expecting another flood of pathetic messages from Maggie, but no, this was worse. A text from an unknown number. "You'll regret this." I stared at the screen, my blood turning to ice. It wasn't Maggie. She wouldn't text from an unknown number. No, this was someone else. And I had a pretty good idea who. I sucked in a breath, forcing my hands to steady. The guy. The one she had been sneaking around with. The one whose voice I had heard in those disgusting videos. I smirked. Was he mad now? Upset that I kicked his little toy out of my house? I typed back. "Come make me." I hit send and waited. A few seconds passed. Then a minute. No reply. Coward. I exhaled sharply, shoving my phone back into my pocket. I should have been done with this. I wanted to be done. But that text? That was a challenge. And I wasn't about to let it slide. I walked inside, straight to the kitchen. My hands still shook as I grabbed a glass and poured a shot of whiskey. The burn down my throat did nothing to dull the fire inside me. Then another buzz. A photo. My stomach twisted as I opened it. It was my car, parked right outside. The image was grainy, taken in the dark, but I knew that angle. It was from the street, right outside my house. I moved fast, grabbing the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a kitchen knife. My pulse pounded in my ears as I yanked the front door open, stepping onto the porch. Nothing. The street was empty, the shadows deep and still. I clenched the knife tighter. "You think this is funny?" I called out. My voice echoed against the quiet houses. "You want to play games with me? Come on then. Let's settle this right now." Silence. I scanned the street, my eyes sharp, looking for movement. A figure. A car. Anything. Nothing. Just the wind rustling through the trees. Then another buzz. "Sleep tight, Adam." A chill ran down my spine. Who the hell was this guy? Some random fling she met at a bar? Someone from work? I had seen his face in those videos, but I didn't know him. And yet he seemed to know me. I exhaled, forcing myself to stay calm. This was just another game. Another pathetic attempt to get under my skin. But he had already made one mistake. He thought I was scared. I turned back into the house, locked the door behind me, and grabbed my laptop. If this guy wanted to play, fine. He was about to learn what kind of man I really was. I sat down at the kitchen table, fingers gripping my laptop tighter than necessary. The glow from the screen was the only light in the house now, casting long shadows across the walls. My mind was racing, fueled by adrenaline and the sharp burn of whiskey still on my tongue. This guy thought he could intimidate me? Threaten me? No. If he wanted to mess with me, he picked the wrong damn man. I opened Maggie's old accounts, social media, emails, anything I still had access to. I knew she wasn't smart enough to cover her tracks completely. And I was right. Her email inbox was a mess, flooded with shopping receipts, useless newsletters, and there it was. An email chain marked as read from a name I didn't recognize, Travis W. I clicked. The first few messages were nothing. Basic flirting, small talk. Then I scrolled further. And my stomach twisted. "Maggie, you sure he won't find out?" "Travis, he's an idiot, babe. He still thinks you're some perfect little wife. Don't worry about him." "Maggie, you're right. He's too boring to ever question me." I just smile and nod, and he eats it up. "Travis, that's why you need a real man. Someone who knows how to handle you." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just some random mistake. She mocked me, laughed behind my back, lied to my face while calling me boring. My blood boiled as I scrolled faster, scanning months of their disgusting little affair. I saw hotel bookings, secret dinner reservations, the same fancy lingerie I had paid for. She was wearing it for him. Then one message stood out. A single line sent a week ago. "Travis, what if he finds out?" So he was scared of me. Good. I minimized the screen and pulled out my phone, heart pounding. I had been so focused on Maggie's betrayal that I hadn't thought ahead. But now the picture was getting clearer. Maggie was gone. But this wasn't over. I tapped out a message. To Maggie, "Who the hell is Travis?" I knew she'd see it. I knew she wouldn't be able to resist answering. Seconds passed. Nothing. Then 3 dots appeared. She was typing. "Maggie, stay out of this, Adam. You don't know what you're doing." I let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing." "Me, so you don't deny it?" More dots. Then a pause. "Maggie, I told you. It was a mistake." The same damn word again. Mistake. I exhaled, forcing myself to stay calm. She wasn't worth the energy. She was already gone. But this Travis, he wasn't done. I went back to the email. Scrolled further. Then I saw it. An address. He had sent her his home address. I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering. A part of me knew I should let it go. Move on. But another part? The part that had been humiliated, lied to, treated like a fool? That part wanted a face-to-face meeting. I grabbed my keys. The drive was short, just 15 minutes across town. I barely registered the streetlights flashing past. My grip was tight on the steering wheel, jaw set. His place was easy to find, a sleek little apartment complex on the nicer side of town. I pulled up, cutting the engine, and just sat there for a moment, staring at the building. He was in there. The guy who had taken my wife, my trust, my dignity. And now? He wanted to threaten me? I stepped out of the car, closing the door softly. The air was cool, but my skin was hot, burning with adrenaline. I walked up to the door, checking the name on the buzzer. Travis Walker. Bingo. I didn't press the button. Didn't announce myself. Instead, I took a deep breath and stepped back, scanning the balconies. Then I saw movement. A shadow shifting behind the blinds on the second floor. I smirked. Coward. I pulled out my phone and sent one last message. Me, come outside. Let's talk. The shadow froze. I stood there, staring up, waiting. A long pause. Then my phone buzzed. Travis, go home, Adam? I smiled. Me, scared? No reply. I walked to the side of the building, looking for another way up. The parking lot was mostly empty, a few cars lined up under the flickering streetlight. Then I spotted it, an emergency stairwell leading up the side. Perfect. I moved quickly, quietly. Stepping up two at a time, my heart pounding louder with every step. When I reached the second floor, I paused outside his door. I knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow, hesitant. I knocked again, harder this time. The lock clicked. The door opened a crack. And there he was. Travis. The man who had ruined my marriage. The man who had sent me threats, hid in the shadows, acted like he was the one in control. Up close, he wasn't impressive. Late 30s, messy blonde hair, a little taller than me but not stronger. He looked like the kind of guy who spent more time styling his beard than doing anything meaningful with his life. His eyes flickered with uncertainty. I smiled. Hey, Travis. He swallowed hard. Adam, man, I don't want any trouble. I let out a low chuckle. No? 'Cause from where I'm standing, you started this. His hand gripped the doorframe. He was debating slamming it in my face. Bad idea. I stepped forward. You screwed my wife, Travis. You sent me threats. Now you think you can just hide. Look, man. I didn't mean it. I didn't let him finish. I grabbed his collar, yanked him forward, and drove my fist into his gut. He gasped, doubling over, stumbling back into his apartment. I followed him in, slamming the door shut behind me. No more games. I was ending this. Travis hit the floor with a grunt, gasping for air like a fish out of water. He clutched his stomach, eyes wide, mouth opening and closing as if trying to say something, but I wasn't in the mood for his excuses. I stepped inside, locking the door behind me with a deliberate click. His apartment smelled like cheap cologne and desperation. A glass of whiskey sat half-finished on the coffee table next to a phone that was still lit up from our text exchange. He tried to scramble backward, but I grabbed him by the front of his shirt and yanked him up. You think you can screw my wife, send me threats, and then just walk away like nothing happened? My voice was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that meant something was about to break. Adam, he gasped, I swear, man, I didn't let him finish. I slammed him against the wall, rattling the cheap picture frames hanging behind him. Don't lie to me. His breath hitched, and for a second I saw the truth in his eyes, fear. He wasn't some tough guy. He was just another rat who thought he could slither into my life, take what he wanted, and then scurry back into the shadows. Not tonight. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. Listen, man. Maggie, she told me things. She said your marriage was dead. That you didn't love her anymore. She said... I cut him off with a sharp laugh. And you believed her? You're dumber than I thought. His jaw clenched, eyes darting toward the phone on the table. He was stalling. Trying to think his way out. Maybe even trying to get to that phone. Not happening. I shoved him back. He stumbled, nearly tripping over his own coffee table. You want to act like a man? Then act like one. Own up to what you did. He hesitated. Look, man. I didn't mean for things to get this far. It was just fun. My vision went red. Just fun. My marriage. My trust. My dignity. Fun. I lunged forward, grabbing him by the collar again, but this time he swung first, his fist connected with my ribs, not hard, but enough to make me step back. So, he wanted to fight now? Fine. I didn't give him time to recover. I tackled him, both of us crashing onto the couch. He flailed, trying to shove me off, but I had the weight advantage. I pinned him down, pressing my forearm into his throat. You don't look like you're having fun now, I growled. His face turned red, veins bulging in his neck. He clawed at my arm, gasping. Stop, please. Pathetic. I let up just enough for him to breathe, watching him suck in air like a coward begging for mercy. You done playing games? I asked. He nodded frantically. I pushed off him, letting him roll onto his side, coughing. He didn't try to run. He knew better. I stood over him, watching him clutch his throat, his breaths coming in short, ragged gasps. You know what I should do? I said, voice low. I should make sure you never touch another man's wife again. His eyes widened. No, man, please. I took a step closer. And then, a loud bang sounded from the hallway. Both of us froze. A second later, a voice, muffled but unmistakable. Maggie. Travis? Open the damn door. I turned to him slowly. He looked just as shocked as I felt. What the hell is she doing here? I muttered. He shook his head, panicked. I don't know, man. She wasn't supposed to. Another bang. I know you're in there. Let me in, now. I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. This woman. This lying, cheating, manipulative woman. She just couldn't let things be. I looked down at Travis, shaking my head in disgust. You really picked a winner, huh? He didn't answer. I walked toward the door, still gripping my ribs where he had landed his weak-ass punch. Then, just to make sure he understood where we stood, I turned back. "This isn't over," I said. Then, before he could respond, I unlocked the door and swung it open. Maggie stood there, hair wild, makeup smudged, wearing the same dress she had left my house in. She looked at me, then passed me to Travis, who was still sprawled on the couch, rubbing his throat. Her face paled. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded. I laughed. "Oh, you don't know? That's a first." She scowled. "I'm not talking to you, Adam." She turned to Travis. "Why is he here?" Travis didn't answer. She stepped inside, brushing past me like I was nothing, like I didn't even exist. Like I wasn't the husband she had betrayed. She marched up to Travis, voice dropping to a hiss. "I told you not to contact him." My eyes narrowed. "You knew he was texting me?" She turned to me, lips curling into that same fake, condescending smirk she always used when she thought she was the smartest person in the room. "Of course I knew." She crossed her arms. "I told him to." The words hit like a slap. I stared at her, trying to piece it together. "You what?" She rolled her eyes. "You think I was just going to let you humiliate me? Throw me out like some trash?" "No, Adam. You needed to be reminded that you're not the one in control here." I let out a low, bitter laugh. "You set me up?" She didn't even flinch. "I warned you," she said simply. I glanced at Travis. He looked just as blindsided as I felt. So, she had played both of us. I shook my head, letting out a breath. "You're insane." She smirked. "And yet, here you are. Still chasing me." I clenched my fists. "I'm not chasing anything. I came here to settle things." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And how's that working out for you?" I took a step closer, towering over her. "Maggie, let me make something very clear to you. I'm done. With you. With him. With all of it." She smiled, slow and cold. "We'll see." I exhaled sharply, turning on my heel and heading for the door. I was done playing her games. But as I stepped into the hallway, something told me. This wasn't over yet. I walked out of that apartment with my blood still boiling, fists clenched so tight my nails were digging into my palms. The air outside was thick and humid, but it wasn't the weather making it hard to breathe, it was her. Maggie. The woman who had ripped my life apart and still had the audacity to act like I was the problem. I should have gone straight home. Should have put as much distance between myself and that mess as possible. But I didn't. I leaned against my car, staring up at the night sky, trying to make sense of everything. I knew Maggie was a liar, a manipulator, but tonight, this was something else. She had played both of us. Me and Travis. Like we were just pieces in whatever sick game she was running. And the worst part? She wasn't done yet. A movement caught my eye. I turned just in time to see Maggie storming out of the apartment, her heels clicking aggressively against the pavement. Travis was behind her, looking dazed, like he was still processing everything that had just happened. Maggie spotted me and smirked. "Still lurking around?" she taunted. I exhaled through my nose, keeping my voice even. "Just taking a moment to appreciate how deep your insanity runs." She laughed, shaking her head. "You always act so righteous, Adam. Like you're above all of this. But guess what? You're not. You're standing here, waiting for more." I pushed off the car, stepping closer. "You really think I'm still waiting for you? After everything?" Her smirk didn't fade. "Oh, sweetheart," she purred. "I don't think, I know. That did it." I wasn't going to stand there and listen to her spin more of her poison. I moved to get in my car, but her next words froze me in place. "You really should be careful, Adam." Her voice was sickly sweet, but there was a sharp edge beneath it. "You don't want to make any more mistakes." I turned back slowly. "Is that a threat?" She shrugged. "Just a friendly warning." Travis was watching us now, shifting nervously on his feet. He had no idea what to do, whether to side with her or stay the hell out of it. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You think you can warn me after everything you've done?" She tilted her head, eyes gleaming with something dangerous. "Oh, baby," she murmured, "you have no idea what I'm capable of." The air between us crackled. And then, before I could respond, she turned on her heel and strutted toward her car, flipping her hair over her shoulder like this was just another ordinary night. I watched her go, my hands flexing at my sides. Travis cleared his throat behind me. "Man, what the hell was that?" I exhaled sharply. "That," I muttered, "was a problem that isn't finished yet." He let out a short, humorless laugh. "Yeah. No kidding. I should have left it at that. Should have walked away, let him deal with his own mistakes." But there was something about the way Maggie had looked at me, so certain, so smug. Like she still had the upper hand. Like she knew something I didn't. So, instead of driving home, I pulled my phone from my pocket and started making calls. If Maggie thought she could play dirty, she had no idea what was coming. The next day, I met with a lawyer. I wasn't going to waste any more time playing Maggie's games. I wanted everything set in motion: divorce, financial separation, a restraining order if I needed one. Whatever it took to get her out of my life for good. But as I sat across from the lawyer, listing out every betrayal, every lie, I noticed something. He was frowning. "Adam," he said slowly, tapping a pen against his desk. "You do realize she might not let you walk away clean, right?" I tensed. "What do you mean?" "She's already proven she's manipulative. If she fights you on this, it could get ugly." I scoffed. "It's already ugly." He nodded. "Fair. But let me ask you something. What do you think she wants?" That question stuck with me. Because I honestly didn't know. Maggie had already cheated, lied, and tried to turn my own rage against me. She had toyed with Travis like a puppet. But why? What was her endgame? I didn't have an answer. But I was going to find out. That night, I drove past my old house. Our house. Maggie was still living there, acting like she hadn't burned everything to the ground. The lights were on. And through the window, I saw her standing in the kitchen, pouring a glass of wine, laughing. Not alone. There was a man with her. Someone I didn't recognize. I clenched my jaw. She had moved on that fast? Or was this just another game? I wasn't about to stick around and find out. I had already wasted too much time on her. But as I pulled away, my phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. "You're making a mistake, Adam. Stop while you still can." I gripped the wheel tighter. Another text came through. This time an image. It was me outside her house. Someone was watching. And suddenly I realized I wasn't the only one keeping track of things.